Hello.
Hey, everybody. People coming in, trying to get those. June, do you have the presentation, or want me to? I'm assuming you're using the same one I used last time.
I have it here.
We got some people that are trying to get in, so.
Okay.
Let's give us a few more minutes. Apparently, Shrudi's trying to get in. There she is. We got a celebrity with Shruti. Shruti got Miss June tonight from the do our presentation. He's a new great.
I was actually trying to log in
back up.
link, and I believe some people have texted me already. I'll just send them to.
I reposted the link on the deal. I had bad luck with putting it in the event, so I think I put it in as a post in the event, and then I went ahead and did it as a deal. That's why I'm like, I was telling Ashley this morning, I was like, I think we're good with ABA study group and Rocket, because the more groups, the more messages.
Right. True that.
It's not about popularity, it's about getting the information out and
that is true.
Getting us all to study.
It's a little bit about popularity.
I don't know, I was never the cool kid, so I do feel like I have kind of the cool kid now. Kind of the cool kid.
And he's recording all his sessions, so.
Yes. Are we doing a Facebook Live?
Yeah.
I know, right? And he has his own channel.
That was Shrudi's idea, because I was recording everything, so I might as well have a place to put it. Not that I have 84 followers, you know, not that I was counting or anything.
We're gonna have a podcast soon.
I would love to do a podcast. Seriously, I would love to do that. My name for it is Modern ABA. And I'll tackle issues in modern society that could be adjusted with ABA principles.
That sounds
already got a deal.
So June, you might get up early in the morning and you'll be like, what? Patrick on podcast? You might be surprised. Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Right?
If I have it on a t-shirt that I made it, that's probably the indicator if you made it. You have
You have it on a t-shirt?
If you have your own t-shirt, I guess that means you made it. So if I have like a t-shirt with my face on it going, then that's probably the make it shirt. But,
can I tell you like a quick little story?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. So my husband, we live in Austin, and his like buddy is in Kansas, and they decided to have a band called Tatanka, and they would sing about the wolves and the wind. But okay, they've never practiced. They've written one song, and they made t-shirts. So people have t-shirts with the logo because the Friends of Graphic Artists. So we all have these Tatanka t-shirts for a band that really doesn't exist. And I get to say though that I sleep with like the lead guitarist. So, and he's my baby daddy. So like that's like my claim to fame with it. But I mean, getting your own t-shirt's pretty big deal, but we have t-shirts.
Yeah, that's cool. You're from Austin. My son's stepdad's from there, and my son now loves anything University of Texas football.
How old is he?
He's 9.
Okay.
Yeah, we
I'm
watched.
actually trying to get out of Austin. I've been here since '97, and I'm
Wow.
done.
Yeah, he's all about University of Texas football, and we catch all the games, and we have probably tons of stuff in this room that has Texas on it. But I'm from Kansas, so I'm
Really? Where?
I'm from Great Bend.
Okay. My
Right in the
mother-in-law's in Lyons, and my husband was in Meade.
That's like down the road from me. Literally, Lyons is.
Oh, really? You've heard of it?
It's like 30 minutes from from where I grew up at.
That's awesome. I'm trying to get into KU for a doctoral program.
I'm gonna probably keep talking, June, 'cause I'm a talker. You probably have figured that out by now, but I'm gonna go ahead and give the floor to June. June's our special speaker tonight. She's doing schedules of reinforcement, so we're all gonna help each other out. And if things get tricky or hairy or uncomfortable, then we're gonna help pitch in and dissect these topics because this is kind of a tough week. It's just kind of there's a lot of stuff happening. So I'll give it to June, and it's all yours.
Yeah, please feel free to jump in if you have, if I miss any information. Let me share my screen. Can you guys see it?
Yep.
Okay. So before I would start, I want to special thank you to Patrick for sharing this PowerPoint, so I don't have to do the PowerPoint. So Patrick did this for us to to go over the schedules of reinforcement. Well, I also have like some few notes here with me in case I did read the PowerPoint, which is pretty much very informative. I didn't add anything because I feel like Patrick already put all the keywords and input in these slides. So okay. Let's begin. There you go. So the schedules of reinforcement, so we have the continuous reinforcement, which is, AKA is also like CRF, and then the intermittent and extinction. So so this is, I think, I can go over, but I think this is just like a sort of like a graph or visual, what do you call this, Patrick? Like just to show what is, like in the umbrella of the schedules of reinforcement.
Yeah, it's from Cooper 3, and I just recreated it because it's a good example of it. It breaks down all the different types of schedules, and really kind of you follow it where it goes and all that. I just thought it was a beautiful graph or a beautiful visual.
I also have like the book with me, like the ABA visual, because I'm a very visual person. So, it's easier for me probably to like explain when I have this book with me. So there goes the breakdown of the schedules of reinforcement. So the schedule of reinforcement, it is a rule that describes a contingency of reinforcement, the environmental arrangement that determine conditions by which behaviors will produce reinforcement. So we have 4 basic intermittent schedules, which is the fixed ratio or FR, variable ratio VR, fixed interval FI, variable interval or VI. So another thing that I would just want to mention when we use this the intermittent schedule is when we are doing maintenance with our client. The CRF is usually when we are introducing new skills. So that's the type of reinforcement that we want to use. So we want to reinforce every response that the client is doing. So here, the continuous reinforcement, aka FR1, because we are reinforcing each or every occurrence of the behavior. So for example, a teacher would provide praise for every occurrence of a desired and appropriate behavior. So like every time that the kid, say finish a worksheet, so that the teacher would either provide praise or whatever other contingencies that they have, but it has to be like every time the behavior occurs. We utilize this for strengthening novel behaviors, as I mentioned earlier. So when we want to teach the kid new skills, this is the type of reinforcement, because we want them to like contact the reinforcement immediately. Like positive reinforcement increases the future occurrence of the behavior. So the basic schedules of reinforcement. So this is also another visual that Patrick had put in the slide. I can go over it. I just go on to the next slide.
The big thing I want to throw in, the big thing I noticed on interval and ratio, right? Think of a number, and then interval, think of time.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you add in the fixed, it's a set number. It's a set time. So your fixed ratio and your fixed interval would be a fixed number, a fixed time limit. And then if you look at variable, it's average. So when you do variable ratio, it's an average. And then when you put variable
in the next slide.
Yeah. I just get a little excited because when just those words all have meaning.
I know. So
break it down, it's like, oh, there it is.
So like as Patrick was saying, like the keywords there is like when we say ratio, it's the responses, and then the intervals, it's the time. It involves time. So fix is like like the response ratio or time requirement remains constant, so it's the same, it's fixed. And then the variable, it's an average, or it's like the mean. If you see like in like a scenario, there's an average or mean, so that's think already that's a variable. This is a variable schedule of reinforcement. And then it just varies whether it's it's going to be a ratio or interval. So when there's responses, so every response, then that's a ratio, and then say every 5 minutes, so that's gonna you read the time, then that's interval there already. If you have any question, feel free. I cannot read the chat, so maybe one of you guys will let me know.
I'll keep an eye out for you. It's all right.
Okay. Who's next? So okay, fixed ratio schedule. So this schedule of reinforcement requires the completion of a fixed number of responses for a reinforcer. So FR schedules often produces high rates of responses because they, like I said, they get in contact with the reinforcement. So each occurrence of the behavior, they get reinforced, then you expect high rates of response. So quick responding on FR schedules maximizes the delivery of reinforcement, because the higher rate of response, the greater rate of reinforcement. Is that like where the matching law kind of like reinforce, like behavior goes where reinforcement flows. So the more you reinforce the behavior, you get the higher rate of response, and then the greater rate of reinforcement. So it has to be like an equal ratio. Then the size of your ratio can influence the rate of response on FR schedules. So during the fixed ratio schedule, they do experience the post-reinforcement pause. It's the absence of responding for a period of time following reinforcement. So because not like I said earlier, so say every 5 responses, and then you reinforce that behavior. So now our kids are smart, so they know that okay, every 5 responses, then I'll get the reinforcement. So there is a pause in the responding. And then normally, like when you see in the graph, like closer to the response, closer to like the schedule, that's when you see higher response rate. And usually it occurs because like the post reinforcement, they get kind of like satiated with the reinforcement. So then they're kind of like, okay, I don't. Let's say for example, you gave them a cookie. So each occurrence of the behavior, you gave them a cookie. And then if let's say you have you already ate 5 cookies, you don't want the next, you're kind of like, I'm not gonna respond because I already like had too much of cookies right now. So there's like a pause in the responding there.
Yeah, can I share one more example, June?
Sure.
Like, you know how people are like, everybody is studying for the exam, and maybe not having sleepless nights, and reading Cooper, reading Mayer, I don't know, like what all other resources like having. And once they pass the exam, they don't want to see the Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
Post reinforcement pause, complete pause.
Yeah.
So,
Like I'm
so
done.
that's how I remember post reinforcement pause. Like we are waiting for that moment, right?
Yeah, it's like they get overwhelmed with the the Cooper book, and then I said, okay, I passed already. Okay, I'm gonna rest my Cooper. So okay, next is the variable ratio schedule, or the VR. So the schedule of reinforcement requires the completion of a variable number of responses to produce a reinforcer. So in variable ratio schedule, it produces consistent, steady rates of responding because the next response may not produce reinforcement. So I kind of like remember like the slot machine, like you keep like doing the slot machine because you keep on thinking that okay, maybe the next um, time I'm gonna win this. So you just keep on doing and doing because you don't know when the reinforcement is gonna occur. So you just keep on like working on that response to earn the reinforcer. Variable ratio schedule, they do not produce a reinforcement pause because like I said, like the um, anticipation of the reinforcement is there. So they kind of like don't want to rest, they just want to keep going because they don't know when the reinforcer is going to occur. So that's kind of like, was that like a motivation for them? um, the VR schedule also tends to produce a quick rate of response. It is similar to effort schedule. The size of the ratio influences the rate of response. So the larger the ratio, the higher the rate of response. Is was it the variable ratio is also the one that is the most resistant to extinction, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one, June.
Yeah.
Right.
Like it's the most resistant because like I said, like because of the anticipation of getting reinforced. So that's so hard to break when you provide a variable ratio of schedule. um it's kind of like they want to work more and more to earn that reinforcer. So if you want to do extinction, I think a variable ratio schedule is probably not the best schedule to use. So next is the fixed interval schedule. So fixed, so it's a fix, and then interval is time. So that's the difference with the ratio. So this one is, you'll see the time there. So you can use like every minute, every say hour, months, or even the days of the week is that's the fixed interval. So the example include a morphine drip set at a fixed interval for release of the medicine. So like for example, like every 5 minutes, there's the drip of the IV drip. So the patient will get it every 5 minutes. And then studying for a set period, then giving yourself a reward. So for example, like now we have this Zoom for 1 hour. Then after this hour, I get like a probably like probably drink like I don't know, like eat an ice cream, or that would be probably my reinforcer. So that is the fixed interval schedule. And also with the fixed interval, like in the graph, this is the one that makes the scallop formation of reinforcement. And also fixed interval has a pause reinforcement pause, because like it's kind of like the same as the ratio, you know, like they know when they're gonna receive kind of like that fix, because of that fixed response, they kind of know when they're gonna get the reinforcer, so they're not really kind of like working hard, so it's kind of like they're floating in the middle in order to like, you know, receive the reinforcement. Then the variable interval schedule, or the VI, the schedule of reinforcement provides reinforcement for the first correct response following the elapsed variable duration of time. So this is with like variable, like the average, you know, time. You say you reinforce a behavior every average of 5 minutes. And then like here, the variable interval 5-minute schedule might be 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes. So it varies. So it's like, it's just like, you know, you get the average of 5 minutes there. So it's not like fixed. So when we there's, I don't know what you call it, like a term, but like the limited hold, you know, when you use interval schedules, I see this in a lot of mocks, like say VI, LH, you know, like 5 seconds. It's a situation in which reinforcement is available only during a finite time following the elapse of a fixed interval. Sorry?
No worries.
Okay, or variable interval if the target response does not occur within time limits. So like say, for example, like I said earlier, like on an fixed interval 5-minute schedule with a limited hold of 30 seconds. So they have to like complete the response within 30 seconds, or if not, then they're not gonna, you know, receive their reinforcement. So another great example would be breakfast served at a restaurant in the morning. So you have till 10:30. So if you were, let's say, you know, sometimes you wake up late in a hotel and then you come down, you sometimes, you know, that the breakfast is served until 10:30. So usually, you know, you just woke up, you just like gargle, you just like want to rush down to the breakfast place to get that free breakfast, because you know after 10:30 they close down or they remove the breakfast, you know, it's gone. You're not gonna receive that free breakfast anymore. And then also the ratio strain. We often hear this. I have like a client before when we increase the schedule of reinforcement because like the so the requirement was too high. So my client became non-compliant with you know, with the program that we asked her to do. So make sure that when we increase our schedule, we have to gradually increase it, not like, for example, like we started with a fixed ratio 1, and then we want to do like a fixed ratio, you know, after 10 responses. So then you're gonna get like a ratio strain there because the requirement is too high for our client to achieve. So it's a behavioral effect associated with abrupt increase in ratio requirements. So when moving from denser to thinner reinforcement schedules, so its common effect includes, so there you go, avoidance, aggression, as I mentioned earlier, also non-compliance, so unpredictable pauses or cessation in responding. So when you see that there is ratio strain, then we have to reduce the ratio requirement. We can go back to like very close from say fixed ratio 2, and then we jump to fixed ratio 10, so we can go back to like fixed ratio 3, which is closer to the kind of like when we first started the program.
So just to clarify, the McDonald's example, that's the fixed time, the fixed interval, the limited time, limited hold. That is right, Trudy?
Yeah, I guess so, because it's a set time period, right? Like from
Yeah.
9 to 11 a.m., breakfast will be served, and you might want to make sure you go on that time if you want that. So
Because most places have till like 10:30, and then you only have like really at 6 a.m. to 10:30 to get it. So it is a fixed time, and your limited hold would be that availability.
yep.
This is a Cooper book too, Patrick. It's like a graphic depiction. So it's kind of like a summary of the intermittent schedule. Okay, so the next one is the schedule of differential rates of responding. So the DRH, so we only reinforce responses higher than a predetermined criterion. So when we want to increase the, produces a high rate of responding. So if we want to increase behavior, this is the differential reinforcement that we want to use. And then the differential rates of differential reinforcement of low rates. And one thing I learned that DRL and DRD is kind of similar. We want to decrease but not entirely eliminate the behavior. But the difference is that in DRL we use the IRT, inter-response time, and the DRD, I'm not sure, like, is it like in a criterion type when we want to decrease the behavior? So for example, I think one thing I remember is that like cigarette smoking, like, from 20 cigarettes, when you want to decrease, the smoking, so we want to give him like a 20 cigarettes, and then, the next time 18, 15. So that's correct me if I'm wrong, but that's one of the examples that I usually remember when it comes to the DRD schedule of differential rates. And then there's another visual that Patrick was this from Rogue. This one I might need like kind of like a help with the lag schedule, because I'm not really pretty sure. My understanding is we use this, for it's one method to increase response variability, and then reinforcement on a lag schedule is contingent on a response differing in some predetermined way. So we use this to teach variability by using contingencies that require response to differ from previous response. I have in my notes, but I couldn't remember the explanation. Like, for example, say the lag schedule is 1, so each response that differs from the prior response reduces reinforcement. So what I have in my note is that, like, say for example, you want to introduce, like, you're doing tacting with, say, animal tacting. So right now is monkey, then you plus, say, dog. So that's like the next the kind of like the response is that the lag 1 schedule. Anybody? And then I have here in the lag 2 schedule, say for example you already introduced the monkey and then the dog, and then you added the horse. So that's when you get the reinforcement. So let's say for example the child tacted the horse, then that's where the reinforcement is being delivered.
Yeah, I'm reading down the points as well. If I can come up with an example, I'll share.
Well, yeah, the difference reinforcement, they use IRT because you're either you're increasing or decreasing IRT, difference reinforcement. But the lag,
It's
the
like
question is time delay.
response variability.
It's like a different response from your previous response, like a schedule reinforcement.
I do. I have this is Jolly, by the way. I have a glossary from the Cooper second edition, and in that it says lag reinforcement schedule is a schedule of reinforcement in which reinforcement is contingent on a response being different in some specified way. For example, different topographies from the previous responses. For example, lag 1. Or a specified number of previous responses, for example, lag 2 or more. So I'm guessing that's like if the shape of the response or the form of the response, previous response, you want it to differentially reinforce the next response as being a little different from the previous response. Then you reinforce that response, like the newer acquired response or approximated response to the target behavior, maybe, like a better version of the previous response. And lag 2 would be the number of previous responses, like if you were answering 2 and now you have to answer 3 and then 4, kind of that.
I did see, like, I can't remember who posted like a question in our group, like the answer was like, it's like lag and latency kind of like similar.
Yeah, I would say like lagging, like,
yeah. So there's like a latency in the response, or not?
I would say like more of like a variability in the response based on topography or the number of responses.
Okay.
So my question is, does chaining constitute this lag schedule?
I was thinking like shaping.
Shaping, more of a shaping.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if they're talking about topography from a previous response is different to the next one, then it sounds like shaping.
Because you're like the successive you're reinforcing the successive successive approximation of the response.
Yeah, or maybe a better response, like if I say, what's your name? And you say June, the next one I want to have you say at least 2 or 3 words or answer in a whole sentence.
So that
like
would be
2 words.
Yeah. So like, for example, you ask me what's my name, June. So that would be the lag schedule, the lag 1. And then if you want to add 2 more,
Maybe, not sure. Just guessing.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I have it in my notes, but I just couldn't remember. I just have, like I said earlier. So I think it's on a tacting, like.
It's like the lag 2 schedule here in your slides. You can see it says contingent on a response being different from the previous 2 responses.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you're answering interrobal questions like "Tell me 2 animals," and I have taught you cat and dog, but I want you to vary your responses, like add novel responses to that question. I don't want you to rote learn just cat and dog as being 2 animals, and maybe if you add cat, dog, and a horse. So that would be like, oh, okay. And then next time you answer something different other than those 2 previous 2 responses, would that be lag 2 schedule? Because now you're responding to me something new. Like you're naming some new animals, novel animals, not as compared to your last response.
I think it's kind of like closer. I think I'm kind of like remembering my notes now, pretty much like what you just explained, like, you want to vary. So like if I only responded 2 types, say for the lag 2, like, 2 types of animals, and then the next response, you want to add another, type of animal.
Yep. So that's where you're increasing the response variability as well. That's the point. Yeah. So yeah, it's more to do with shaping or learning new skills, but not behavior chain. because chaining would be steps to reach a particular thing.
Each response
So-
would be an SD for the next response,
Mhm.
but
Right.
we're not queuing the next response. We're waiting.
Right.
And then my question would be to ask them, like, what's the benefit of using lag schedules? Why do we use them? What's the advantage? So from this slide, when I'm looking at it, lag 1, lag 2, lag 3 looks like we're trying to avoid rote learning. We're trying to vary the responses to newer responses, and that's why we use lag schedules.
Is
So
it
I feel like lag schedules would be kind of focusing on like building their repertoire, right? So if
Yeah.
you're, so like she said, if you're teaching that lag 1, you're first gonna say to your student, okay, like if you're showing a picture of a farm or something, what animals do you see? Dog. Okay, then you go to lag 1. So now they need to say a response that's either then dog. Then once they say cat, so then you go to lag 2. Lag 2, they already said dog, cat. Now we're looking for that third response, fourth response, and so forth. So you're always going to be looking for that one ahead in that lag that you're in. So I think it's mostly for just building that, you know, repertoire for that individual.
Correct.
It's
I
fair
believe-
because because interverbal, you want that 2-second delay, and you're not going to get a 2-second delay in this. You're probably going to get longer. And then, like we said earlier, it wouldn't be chaining because each response would signal the next response. So it really wouldn't be chaining. I agree. It's just more of a skill building the repertoire.
Yeah, what I saw is like I think they did use this for like tacting. Like when I was like trying to like find, you know, like what is this lag schedule? I did see like they use like there was like an article using lag schedule to, you know, like increase the response variability with tacting.
And that would make sense because you're tacting and you're labeling each item and you're labeling more and more and more, and now you're building your repertoire.
And that would also hold true for or like a pure tact or a spontaneous tact where you're walking around somewhere and the child is tacting novel stimuli, like different things that he sees, not just focusing on 1 or 2 items in his environment. And then every time he tacts novel items or objects in his environment, then that would be like lag 1, lag 2, lag 3 kind of. Same like with the introverbal. Also on this, on this the slide that's up there, lag 1 schedule, do you think it should be each response that differs from the prior response, should it be produces reinforcement? Because it says reduces reinforcement.
Is this produces?
Do you think it should be produces reinforcement?
Yeah.
Because that's how it's gonna go up to the levels to level lag 2 and then lag 3. So
Yeah, it should be, I think it should be produced as well because each new response gets you that reinforcement for each on that like continuous schedule, I would say, when you start.
And then the lag 2 schedule is contingent on a response being different from the previous 2. So now we don't lag 2. So we don't want the previous 2. We are providing reinforcement on the next 2 newer responses, not the previous ones.
The next one, it wouldn't be 2. So if you go from lag 2 and you already said the 2 responses, now you're looking for that 1 additional new response. And then that would bring us to the lag 3. Then when we get to the lag 3, we already did those 3. So then we would be looking for that new additional response. And then we would move down to lag 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I think I understand it more, but yes.
There's actually a really good video. I can post it in Rockin' that I watched on YouTube. She explained it really, really good, and it's like a case study. So I'll see if I can find it, and I'll put it up in Rockin' for you guys.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Just give everybody heads up. This is a 5th edition task item mentioned in Cooper 3rd edition. So we can relax. We're good. We can relax. Because this is all from Cooper 3rd. So one topic that we caught last time, that was a 5th edition task item. Task list, I can't talk, item.
So, okay, we're done with lag schedule. We're having a lag here too.
Let's move on.
So now, so then the progressive schedules of reinforcement. So progressive schedule of reinforcement, aka progressive interval, time-based, progressive delay, delay fading. So systematically thins each successive reinforcement opportunity within the sessions independent of the participants' behavior. So progressive, it means, you know, you just progress the schedules of reinforcement that we use in this with reinforcement assessment and behavioral intervention. I'm not sure actually what's the difference. Progressive ratio schedule of reinforcement. The schedule is systematically thin as well. So each successive reinforcement opportunity independent of the individual's behavior. The ratios are typically increased to the breaking point when the participant stops responding. Can anybody like
Julia, I just wanna ask, is this based on the 5th edition, this slide? Because I have no, is it based on the 4th edition?
The whole presentation is based on the 5th.
No, but this one is on 4th as well.
Yes, I know, but the progressive schedules, this one is showing in 2 separate, like progressive schedule and then progressive ratio schedule.
I think progressive is 4th.
Well, you have one of them, which is part of your reinforcer assessment. You have your progressive ratio there. Like you want to see how much the kid is going to work for, like that breaking point.
Oh,
that's
okay.
that's one of them in your reinforcer assessment.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
So all we're basically doing is we're increasing the reinforcement. I just had a brain thought of progressive auto insurance and flow. So you're increasing the flow of the reinforcement.
Yeah. So okay, we move on. So then we have the compound schedules of reinforcement. So this is combining 2 or more basic schedules of reinforcement, continuous reinforcement, the intermittent schedules of reinforcement, and the differential reinforcement of various rates of responding. So the basic component can occur simultaneously or successively and can occur with or without the SD. And then it makes reinforcement contingent on meeting the response requirements of each component. Schedules independently or contingent on meeting the response requirements of the combination of the compound schedules. So I actually like this. I have printed this out for me to like really understand it better. So there's like we have 7 compound. Is it 7? Yeah, 7. So if the schedule of reinforcement occurs at the same time, so if it's yes, then we have concurrent, we have the alternative and conjunctive. If it does not occur or simultaneously, then we will have to look into 2 if it has an SD or it doesn't have an SD. So if yes, if there is an SD, then it's multiple or chained, and if it does not have an SD, then it's mixed and tandem. So this is very helpful to me. I did print. I printed this visual. I had it, you know, posted on my wall. So that's kind of like a prompt for me was to remember the compound schedule. So the first one is the concurrent schedule. So concurrent schedule of reinforcement occurs when the 2 or more contingencies of reinforcement operate independently and simultaneously for 2 or more behaviors. So this is the choice making. This is the matching law as well. The 2 topographical responses with different reinforcement schedules, and it has 2 behaviors. Let's see. So like I said, it requires 2 or more schedules of reinforcement for 2 or more behaviors. So both schedules are run simultaneously, but each schedule has its own contingency. So say, for example, on an FR 5 or fixed interval 10, so when a child eats 5 carrots, he gets a chocolate bar. Or when he And then when he remains seated for 10 minutes, then he earns like 5 minutes, extra PlayStation time. So is it like happening simultaneously? So here, Patrick also has an example. So a student is given 2 math worksheets. It's nice when we have more examples. So one blue with addition problems, one with white with subtraction problems. So the student can work on either or both types of problems and earns a reinforcer for every 10 correct answers to addition problems and every 5 correct answers to subtraction problems. So like both, like the student has to do both, and that's when usually when you have 2 types of schedule, like I mentioned earlier, like the matching law. So they will only usually when they earn more, or like the appetitive or like the most preferred reinforcer is put in that schedule, they tend to just kind of like like probably will choose that schedule first than the other.
Yeah, like
Can
an
you-
example I can give is like, think about like, this is usually what I try with my husband, like either do laundry or you do the dishwasher. So he will calculate, right? Laundry, how many clothes are there? Okay, which kind of job he's gonna finish faster, and he would choose his reinforcement.
So would that only use the ratio schedules or the interval, or we can mix them up?
I believe both
You
both
can
can be ratio, or
Because in
both
this
can be
example,
interval.
Okay, they can be both ratio, because in this example it's both ratio.
Yeah. So it is both ratio or both interval.
Or it can be ratio and interval.
Interval.
No, I meant both ratio, like in this example, or both interval.
Okay, it can be one ratio, one interval, because there are some schedules where they do have that option.
Yeah, so then in that case, it will be alternative or conjunctive, one ratio.
For concurrent, we can actually do a fixed ratio or a fixed interval.
Yeah, that's in my in the example that I have, Shruti. So they did use a fixed ratio and a fixed interval schedule.
Okay.
Can it also be fixed interval and variable ratio, like a variable and a fixed together? Like, can we use all these combos between these two?
Yeah,
as for mine, ratio and interval in the concurrent.
I'm not sure because it didn't really in this like the visual here. I know it's just like it involves 2 behavior, 2 schedule, but the combo I'm not 100% sure.
Well, I feel like it could be any of them, because concurrent, we follow the matching law. So reinforcement behavior goes where reinforcement flows. And then in my notes, we can do either or.
So I'm looking at my PTABA manual, and it says there's an example that talks about FR1 and FI7 as one example.
Yeah, I'm looking at it too. Yeah, they have like an interval.
So then it's ratio and interval.
Yes.
Yeah, you can use
So I think it depends, because they are to choose between like the 2 behaviors. So it just it only differs because depending on which type of reinforcement they're gonna earn, or I mean the stronger reinforcer. But there's like a choice, making.
Yeah, and even in the slide it says with different reinforcement schedules.
Yeah.
So it can be any of the 4 basic reinforcement schedules.
It becomes confusing when you have exam questions on that. Like, okay, there are either or and both.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
With concurrent though, you'll know it's concurrent because like it says here 2 behaviors, 2 reinforcement schedule, and it's happening simultaneously. So there's only 3 schedules that happen simultaneously. So it's alternative and conjunctive. With alternative, it's the either or, and with the conjunctive, it's both schedule. Like the ratio and the interval, correct?
Yeah. And to add to what June said, alternative and conjunctive would have only one response class, whereas concurrent will have two or more behaviors, like two or more response classes.
Yeah, concurrent is the only one that has two or more.
Yeah, so if you see two different behaviors, like as I said, laundry and dishwasher, it's going to be concurrent. It won't be alternative. It's because it's
But you could have more than one behavior in the chain schedule. You could have more than one behavior
in what?
in the chain schedule, because it's like a test analysis. You have to do it at that sequential, so you could have more than one behavior in the chain
Oh,
schedule.
no, we're not talking about chain. We're not talking about chain. We are talking about conjunctive and alternative.
No, I know, but I'm just talking about response class.
Well, in the
Right,
conjunctive,
yeah.
the only thing, the one main factor for conjunctive is that this has a ratio and an interval, and both of them have to be completed at the same time.
Yeah. So in order to decide between concurrent and alternative, that was a discussion. So for alternative, it's going to go, it's like one response class, and for concurrent, it's two response class.
Okay.
Yeah. Because we cannot just rely on either or, right? So either or is also choice making, but how would you decide whether it's, you know, alternative or it's concurrent?
Yeah,
So that's
and
the
because
distinction.
Because one behavior.
Yeah, it's simultaneously happening. So you have a choice of pick either of the two that's happening at the same time.
Right.
Like the alternative where it's like successively happening.
Right. So if I say like solve five math problems, or solve math for at least 15 minutes. So that's going to be alternative, because it's like doing math, one behavior.
That's a big difference between alternative and concurrent. Alternative is like the car warranty, you know, how many miles or how many years, time versus, you know, the fixed number of miles.
Mm-hmm.
And concurrent, I always think of like two behaviors. I don't think so much. I think the alternative, I think of two different things to achieve the goal. But with concurrent, I think of two different behaviors. There's two different scheduled behaviors happening. And like matching law, I'm going to pick the one that's most rewarding. If 5 subtraction problems get me reinforcement and I'm not the best addition person, I'm going to do 5 subtraction problems. If the blue worksheet has problems that are easier for me to complete to get reinforcement, I'm going to do the blue sheet over the red sheet. You have two different schedules lined up, and we're choosing the one that's beneficial. With alternative schedules of reinforcement, that's when I'm thinking of occupational behavior management. I'm thinking of a job. Also, I work in a factory, and I either have to crank out 4,000 units or work for the next 2 weeks. There's a set number, there's a set time. Both one or the other has to be done. Conjunctive, that's when we get into both of the schedules have to be done. Both of them have to. But I hope that helped, because I know we're hitting a little circle here. And
no, that was very clear, Patrick. And also for the alternative, whatever schedule you meet first, that contacts reinforcement, and in conjunctive, they both have to happen to meet the requirement.
Right.
To get the reinforcer.
Okay. So I already said the matching law, behavior goals, where reinforcement flows.
It goes where Shruti flows. That's matching law.
So then next is the multiple schedule. So like I said earlier, I'm gonna show up again. So the multiple is like it has an SD. So it does not occur at the same time, but it has an SD. So then 2 or more basic schedules of reinforcement for the same period, same behavior operate successively, usually in random sequence. So 1 response, 2 SDs, and 2 different reinforcement schedules.
This would be your behavior contrast. We have 2 different schedules. They're not operating side by side. They're not operating next to each other. We're going to get more reinforcement out of this one and we're not going to spend so much time on this one. That's where our behavior contrast comes in. One response, where's it going to go? But we have two different SDs happening.
Yeah. What reminds me of this one is like, for example, like at, you know, like home and the school, like Patrick said, behavior contrast. So you have like a worksheet in school, and then you have a worksheet at home. So it's the same, you know, one response worksheet, and the SDs is like the teacher, and then at home is, say, your mom is the one who's like, okay, do your worksheet. So two different SDs and two different schedule of reinforcement. Say, for example, in school, the teacher, you know, is giving like every one finished worksheet, and then, you know, the student can have like a 5 minutes break. And then mom at home say, okay, finish all your like worksheets, and then you can you know, you'll have your TV time later. So, you know, it depending on which is the stronger reinforcer. And then, say, for example, because at school it's fixed ratio, so every 5, and then he gets a break, so he will have more higher response at school and then lesser response at home. So there's like a behavior contrast going there. Did you guys get it? Question?
You're doing great.
And it's also important to know that SD could also be a thing, right? The SD, it doesn't have to be a person,
No.
right?
Right. It signals reinforcement. Person or thing. It signals reinforcements available.
Right. The SD could be that, yeah. Because some of my questions be like, okay, if I don't see the person, but it could be a thing too. The SD.
Right.
Like because SD signals reinforcement. So whoever is signaling the reinforcement, that's the SD. So at school, so it's the teacher. I can't think of any example, like I'm kind of like you know, not that person, but let's say, you know, something else, not a person SD.
Well, even the house, you know, the house, if, you know, my kid comes to my house for the weekend, my house signals there's reinforcement for certain things. When he goes to when it's time to go home, he sees his mom's car in the parking lot at our spot. Mom's car signals reinforcement for things in his house. So it's not so much mom in this case, her car signals reinforcement. It's Friday night, he's on his way to see me, we're at our meeting spot, he sees my car, I signal my car, not me, signals reinforcement. And there is a huge behavior contrast between our two homes. I'm not saying that ugly, it's the truth. You know, how we do things and how they do things, and there's a contrast in between. And when you start to look at behavior contrast, it's really funny because you see it in a lot of things. It really is. And I agree, it's not so much people, it's certain things.
You want to see some examples, or the example that Patrick gave and myself is already clear? Then we can go to like chain schedule. So I'm gonna go up again to see. So chain, so it has an SD. It does not occur at the same time. So two or more basic schedules, each correlated with an SD. It operates in a specified sequence. So, you know, chain, sequence. Then the component schedules may require the same behavior or different behaviors. Meeting the requirement in the first component must be accomplished, and so on until all elements in the chain have been completed. So completing the last element normally produces unconditioned or conditioned reinforcement in applied setting. So it has several steps. So each step SD is the SD for the next, you know,
which is exactly what it says. It's a chain.
Uh-huh.
And the SD signals reinforcement. We do each link in the chain. We do each response. Searches SD for the next. Like getting gas. I put my card in. That signals the next SD for the next response. I press in my information, signals the next response, SD, 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 and I get gas. It's a succession of SDs until I get in a chain.
So
Basically a chain.
Yeah, it's pretty much the chain schedule. We already did the behavior contrast. So next is the mixed schedule. So it does not occur simultaneously and no SD. So two or more basic schedules are presented successively, usually in random sequence, unlike with a multiple schedule. However, each component schedule is not signaled by an SD. So like I said, no SD. So one response to different reinforcement. So mix usually like you're not, is it the one that you're not sure like what is happening because it's like so mixed up. Like the example that I have here is like a child, you know, can sometimes listen to his favorite song when he eats 5 spoons of rice, or he can sometimes listen to his favorite song when he eats rice for 1 minute. So here is another example. So a student is assigned daily math worksheets, always of the same color. Sometimes a student receives a reinforcer after 10 correct answers. Sometimes reinforcement follows the first correct answer after a 1 minute interval has elapsed from the preceding reinforcement. So you're kind of not sure what's with the mixed one. Let's see. Are you guys good with mix?
I think we're good.
Okay.
That's fun because I got that messed up today.
Yeah.
Got that one and multiple mixed up, and now I'm like, no, I got it. But still.
Yeah. That's kind of like how I remember mix is like, it's just like a mix up of schedules. So the other one is tandem. So it does not have it doesn't occur simultaneously. It doesn't have an SDS also. Two or more basic schedules operate in a specified sequence. It's kind of like the chain, but it does not have the SD. So I think that's kind of like how it is different from the chain schedule.
It's like going to a hotel. You know, you have an SD, you know, there's a building for reinforcement for sleeping, whatever. You go inside, you go to the clerk says go to your room, you go to the elevator signals, and we go to the next floor, we press our button, we go to our room. We have all these signs, all these SDs. Your room number is this way, or you're on this floor. You have steps to know like GPS. Yeah, I think GPS is probably a better example. You know, GPS, 3 miles when turn left. 48 miles going straight. We have all these steps for our chain, but then it's like GPS without all the directions. There's no SD for your turn. There's no SD to know when something's coming up, or go back to the hotel example. It's like there's nothing on any of the walls, and you have to like hope that you find your room. You don't know what floor is which. You don't know which room is which. There are no SD and no markers to help you complete the chain to find your room. It's like hopping an elevator with no buttons. I mean, there are no SDs to give you reinforcement for the next step. It's just, it's the chord maze is the best example because there's no signs, there's no SDs, there's no nothing. You don't have a clue where you're going, how to get there.
No idea.
Craziness. No SDs equal craziness.
Like no idea of what I'm doing.
Right.
Okay. So next is here we go. We're in the alternative schedules. So alternative schedule of reinforcement is obtained by meeting the response requirement of any 2 or more simultaneously available component schedules. So as we mentioned earlier, so it happens simultaneously. So it provides reinforcement when the implementation of either a ratio or an interval. So let's say, for example, like you run for 20 minutes, or you like make 1,000 steps.
Which one's faster? That's what I'm going to choose. 1,000 steps if it's faster.
And then conjunctive, so rain also happens simultaneously. The reinforcement follows the completion of response requirements for 2 or more simultaneously operating schedules. So you have to do both. There's no choosing. So say you have to do 20 push-ups or 20 minutes of push-ups.
20 minutes of push-ups, man.
Like,
Brutal. I'd rather have it for alternative.
I just do 20.
Man.
I think that's it.
Should be toward the end, and there's kind of there's a thing from Rogue that breaks down all of them. Definitely need the SD. I'm definitely having the light bulb moment tonight with the SDs on these schedules, because it's really important to know which ones signal reinforcement and which ones don't. It's important enough to know what they are, which took me forever to get to that point, but it really is important to know which one has an SD and which ones don't.
Yeah, what actually helped me is the visual one that is, the earlier one that that is what I would understand better. So you just, when you see the compound schedule, there's, either it occurs simultaneously or not. And then if it doesn't occur simultaneously, then it has an SD, or it doesn't have an SD. Because simultaneously, there's only 3 schedules that the behavior occurs simultaneously. I mean, the reinforcement occurs simultaneously.
Right. And this was pretty busy, and the other one's from Study Notes ABA. That's where I got it from. And I do like the other one a lot better, because it's pretty much a map of which way do I go, which way do I go. And
yeah, they have, in the Study Notes ABA, I have, I don't know if you guys can see my little note. This is pretty busy to me too, but the other visual was like better. I think this table is more of like, they're saying, because like the multiple and mix are opposite each other, and chain and tandem opposite each other, and then alternative and conjunctive kind of opposite each other.
Yeah.
There was a post by someone on our study group, and it was so interesting how they broke down and combined these schedules. I think June, you just talked about that a bit. So she's written like multiples and mixed are married. Did you read that one?
Yeah, that's like my notes. I have like a little heart there.
Chained and tandem are like dating, going on a tandem bike ride, and alternative and conjunctive are opposites. And concurrent is happy by itself because it doesn't combine with anyone else. It's like 2 or more behaviors. So I found that really neat how she explained that.
Yeah. Because like it's kind of like they fall in the same, but there's just like a differentiation. Like, say, for example, the alternative and conjunctive. So the difference is that or and both. And then the chain and tandem, the chain is more of like, they're both kind of like a chaining, but chain is more of like, it has the SD, and then the other one doesn't have the SD. So that's kind of like how I would remember it too.
Yeah, it's like, think about a rat has to come out of a maze. There's no SD for the next step where it needs to go, but it has to find its way itself. So there are certain steps that need to take in sequence, but there's no SD. I mean, one step does not signal the availability of reinforcement or acts as an SD for the next step, unlike the chained ones. So the rat has to find its way by itself. There's nothing to show it the next step. But if it's chained, there would be like, let's say, we can put like little stimulus prompts there to show us like, okay, this is the next SD. There are SDs present there to show the next step. Just like Patrick was talking about the hotel rooms.
I know there's sometimes you guys get confused. I was confused before too with the concurrent and conjunctive, but you know, concurrent, always remember, I think that's the only one that has two or more behavior, and the rest are all just like one behaviors, right?
Yeah, like table time, like do 25 minutes of worksheet of 15 questions. So you have to do both. It's time based, and then there is a ratio. You have to do both to finish and then get your reinforcement.
Can you go back to slide 5, kind of breeze through that one a little bit? That was another visual. Oh yeah, that was the limited hold one. Thank you.
Yeah, like
for the chain, do you have the schedule of reinforcement for the chain will be every given SD, right? There's not a schedule of reinforcement in place, because every time they do a skill, then there's another SD for another skill.
It's just like your behavior chain, like when you do backward or forward chaining.
yeah, let's say for example your the behavior is like brushing teeth. So what is the first step? Let's say like Shruti was saying, like forward chaining. So say you're doing forward chaining, so you know, like the step by steps. Is it like in the task analysis too? Like, you know, you put the toothpaste or open the, you know, remove the cap, put the toothpaste on the toothbrush. So successive was a sequence. So that's what's that. Yeah.
Yeah, chain's basically chaining. It's
Yeah.
basically exactly the same. ST signals the next response, signals the next link, and then you have reinforcement waiting for you at the end. I mean, chaining is chaining. You just call it a schedule now, but it's pretty much.
Thank you. You're amazing, June. Bye. Thank you.
You guys, if you want to screenshot, and you're sharing this one too, like Patrick, right?
I'll post it to the Rockin' page. If you're in the Rockin' group, I'll have it there. That's where I post everything at. It's just easier to put one page.
Yeah. If you're like me, a very visual person, this is what I really recommend. This kind of like really, before when I tend to avoid compound schedule. I was like, oh, it stressed me out already. But after I had this visual, it's like, even if I close my eyes, I have my hand, you know, kind of like, okay, it's simultaneously happening, you know. I have it mapped in my head already, just with this.
There's a page in Cooper 3. I'm not sure about Cooper 2. I'm sure there is. It breaks down the compound schedules with an example, what's involved. There's a little graphic on whatever page. I don't have my books handy. I'm in my kid's room. But it breaks it down, and that really helped me when I put the presentation together last year. And I followed that example, and it really helped me. So just keep that in mind too. But yeah, this visual is right here is amazing. It's really, really good. But I'm not gonna keep y'all too long. I know it's probably early for some of y'all. Thank you so much, June. You did a great job. You really did.
Thank you.
Thank you, June. That was wonderful.
You're welcome. Thank you also for
the great discussion. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
I know a lot of people keep posting on the Facebook page. I'm going to sit before I get off. Every Tuesday night we meet for Cooper. Every Tuesday night, 2 o'clock. I mean, not 2 o'clock. Every Tuesday night, Central Time, we meet. And then Mondays we do behavior analysis for lesson change. I do that one. So if you want to join that one, I post a link for an ABA study group and Rockin'. Same thing. Everything's posted. So just trying to let y'all know when I study and if y'all want to study with me. But thank you so much, June, and I'll see y'all.
Thank you.